Right. This is Kubernetes batch working group bi-weekly meeting. Um, this will be recording and published into the YouTube channel. So please follow the Kubernetes code of conduct. Today I'm hosting this meeting. Uh, First is queue
Okay.
system space.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
my point in the agenda. Okay, so that's more right now like an announcement than discussion because it was already merged and closed. Basically, we have introduced an exclusion of kube system namespace and the deployment and the namespace that queue is deployed in from all of the webhooks related to workload sources like uh, job webhook, pod webhook, so that we do not interfere with any like crucial Kubernetes components. Now it will be consistent both in the release manifests and the Helm chart itself. Yeah. If anybody has any like concerns about that, we can still like do some uh, mm, actions to address them, as this will be in the new release. It is not yet cherry picked to any old one.
so this was merged into the main. Oh, I see. So I need to check that.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
it
yeah, I
it can
agree with you. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah it can definitely like save some of the users major headache when it turns out that queue is stopping jobs during, for example, cluster upgrade, because it looks like kubeadm is spinning up jobs like to health check other components, and they might be blocked by queue. But since there are no like nobody has signalized this issue, maybe it is okay to make it just a part of the new release.
Yeah, I basically agree with you. So this should be shipped into the only main branch because this is validation change. So some users might expect no validation change in patch versions. So if really face any kind of user request for this enhancement in existing release branch, we can reconsider cherry picking. Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
And the next is Kevin. Kevin, you are muted. Okay, I guess he will be rejoining this meeting afterward. Um, hey Kevin, can you hear me?
Oh, sorry. Were you talking to me? Oh, Kevin. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, yeah. Can you hear me? I cannot hear you. Okay. Um, uh, let, let, let's move to the next topic and let me know if Kevin can. ready, can speak anything in your situation. Okay. So the next is Amy.
Yeah, I'm just trying to gauge what other folks are seeing. So specifically, I come from a company where like Slurm is a big thing. And people do want like a Kubernetes native batch scheduling option. Um, but I'm wondering like something, and there's a lot of benefits to moving to Q, right? But like something that Q sort of lacks is like this sort of time estimation factor. I'm keeping it vague because I think there's like a lot of dimensions that you can think about like time estimation. I'm curious if other people are like seeing that sort of need. But also like I'm open to like agreeing that like maybe it's a completely different paradigm than like how Q sort of runs, right? Because for Q, it's just gobble up as much capacity basically instantaneously as possible. We sort of have these concepts of admission fare sharing that adds time, sort of, but it's not really about like predictions, where it's like, oh, I expect my job to start running at around whatever time, or like offering SLAs or SLOs. Or like to complicate it even more, like I wonder if there's like a demand for like a backfill scheduler for Q. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to put this out there to see if anyone else is like seeing this need at all.
So as far as I know, so Kevin previously brought this similar topic into this meeting or Q issue, and we concluded to recommend admission fee sharing at that time. But so if
I don't,
uh,
sorry, I don't know for admission fair sharing though, that's more like uh fairness, right? It's not really, is it like, I don't think it tells you how long the job will run for. It's more like when these other jobs sort of come in, here's how we adjust the amount of time that your job will run. Like, does that make sense? It's not really like an SLA or SLO type of thing.
yeah, I understand your point. So the SLO-based scheduling is more static allocations, but admission fee sharing is more dynamic time allocations. So I understand that there's different point between that. So um, yeah, yeah, actually, so Martin, remember the previous discussion?
Uh, so the main problem with this is that Kubernetes itself doesn't store its historical data. And to estimate how long the workload will be running, it would be great if you could have all of the previous execution of the same workload and maybe of similar workloads and run type of AI on top of it that will, based on this data, it will try to estimate how long the execution will be. That kind of goes quite away from the current Q scope because currently there is no long-term database of any sort in Q, nor any AI model deployed on top of it. So I'm not sure how Slurm does it and how accurate these things are. However, like on Q end, this historical data is the main problem.
Slurm has Postgres. No, it has MariaDB. MariaDB is how they store all this information. Like they do have a database for all this stuff. But yes, I agree with that one. So yeah, so I guess I was called out. My mic's working now. Yay. So yeah, the idea I had was the wall time limits. The other one I've been thinking about is like the way that one thing that Slurm the way they do backfill scheduling is they make sure that all jobs have time limits. And that's one thing that we actually don't do a great job of, I think, enforcing in Kubernetes. That's why I have a separate feature around adding like cluster, like basically time limits at the cluster queue level. So like workloads will by default have like a time limit set if they're submitting to a certain queue, which kind of mimics a lot of what Slurm does, because a lot of times users forget to set time limits. And right now we sort of say, user, you can set a time limit, but honestly, I doubt most people are, because it's an opt-in. So that's like one thing I think for at least backfill from what I saw in Slurm is it looks at priority and time and see whether or not it can fit jobs that have short run times, which right now I don't think most probably most workloads submitted to queue, I would guess, probably are not setting a time limit. And so we don't really have any kind of predictability to know like when jobs will finish, which I think is one thing we would need for backfill scheduling at a minimum.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's just, I think I'm more so just curious if like people are seeing Slurm people coming to queue, and like if we're not going to do something like this, right? Like how people are explaining away that major thing that Slurm sort of has. But yeah, like if we were to implement something like this, I think your suggestion in Zig scheduling really made sense, Kevin, which was, yeah, like adding time limits, because then you can also like abstract away like any database thing where it's just like you figure out how long you think this job will run, just flop a like time like status or like fields or whatever thing on your workload or pod. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just curious.
One thing is user setting it to any value, and the other is setting it more or less precise, and estimate that your workload will start in 2 weeks or less is kind of useless, to be honest. So that would also have to be relatively precise to be useful. And to make it precise, probably there should be some carrot and a stick mechanism there. So, for example, in admission fare sharing, we should be using your max time to accumulate how long the workload will execute. That will stop people from putting too large values, and they will try to make it as precise as possible. If we created a kind of consequence for putting too large value, putting too small value has obvious consequences because your workload will not finish. But we would, in order to get like good estimates, we would also need to have some way of punishing from them from the other end, and like additional incentive to actually set go in that direction in the first place.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah,
From my point of view, yeah, some incentive would be nice. And sure, for like a complex machine learning approach, you need some sort of the storage, but we can do some sort of moving average or other basic approach in memory that will give us some estimation. Basically, last 100 jobs took on average, I don't know, 1 hour. So as there are more like 50 more jobs before me in the queue, and we have this from the visibility on demand, it will take X hours to get admitted if obviously nothing changes, like some more higher priority jobs are admitted. Yeah. So as a baseline, this is a possibility here from my perspective. It wouldn't be really precise since we do not have the information, but it will give some information.
Yeah. I think on my end, what I would need to do is figure out how large the demand is, and then also what gain there would be made if we were to implement something like this. because now like talking through all of the possible solutions, the other thing we don't want, right, is to like overcomplicate Q. But I appreciate like everyone sort of like brainstorming a little. I was just curious if this was a thing at all. But yeah, I'll try to come back with more specifics.
One additional reasons why it would be good to have that information apart from visibility is that we could use this time to better bin pack. Right now we have absolutely no idea when the workload will finish, and that results in moderate bin packing and fragmentation. If we could, for example, schedule the workloads with similar finishing time together on the same rack nodes, whatever, then the fragmentation would be better. So that also has like a quite few practical applications on the scheduling itself. But again, these values would have to be somewhat precise.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let me add that as a note here so that I can
Sure.
like reference it later.
And additionally, so we actually didn't give backfill scheduling capability. However, researchers can specify estimated to finish time in the workload annotation. And after the running time exceeds the predefined finish time, Q automatically evict the jobs. I understand this is not exactly same this is not exactly same feature with any proposal feature, but I guess we can inform this feature to surround user or first administrator.
Can you actually add that as a note as well under this bullet? That'd be helpful.
Annotation, workload annotation. Okay, let me add the documentation link afterward. And is there any comment for this discussion?
All good on my end.
I guess Oleg.
Yes, I just wanted to make sure, are we interested here in like best effort estimates as well? Because the original question was about something like SLA, SLO, which feels more promising, yes? While then I feel we shifted to best effort estimates, like when do we estimate this workload can run, which is helpful for the users, true, but it's something else. So I want to understand if that's also in scope. That would make us happy.
Yeah, I think like something like best effort would also be interesting. Basically anything's on the table. Just any concept of like time estimation is on the table and part of scope for
Okay.
brainstorming. Yeah.
Good. Then we had some internal discussions on that already, but we didn't reach any far conclusions yet. This was preempted work, basically.
Yeah. It seems, I think the tricky part is just like not overcomplicating Q. It's because it's already, there's a lot of toggles, right? So yeah, I'd be curious what folks sort of come out with and sort of for brainstorming ideas.
Okay, thank you.
Martin, are you still raising your hand?
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just had a quick agenda item. Yeah, there's been some interest for us downstream around like so we were having a lot of users kind of use stuff like stateful set integration for Kubeflow notebooks. And there's been some people of exposing some downsides to kind of relying these like hidden integrations. Like you don't, when you're building like an observability, you don't really have visibility into like the notebooks that are being queued. You just have visibility into like the stateful sets that are actually being queued. So there's been like we've been chatting internally about actually having these as like first class workloads in queue. Notebooks is challenging because there's V1 of the notebook, which is essentially on maintenance mode. And unfortunately, they're not even that receptive to adding a fix into the Kubeflow notebooks to actually get that one working. We have a fork internally where I did publish a patch back to it, but I'm not getting any of the maintainers actually interested in merging that one. And then V2 is, I guess, is it workbenches or whatever? It's basically a new rewrite of the Kubeflow notebook where I think the community kind of wants to focus their efforts. So I'm not sure for Kubeflow notebook if we will get this in tree. Uh, then the other ones were Kserve, LLM inference service, and I think inference service. I don't know. I actually don't know the CRD names off the top of my head for Kserve, but that's another one that I think we're hoping. I'm hoping to get some community members from the Kserve to potentially contribute that to Q. And I was curious, like, what is the community's feeling on some of this? Because I think what Amy and we've been kind of chatting with like the Grow folks. There's a lot of ways people are running inferencing workloads. That's not just like leader worker set. And like I am wondering over time, like we might have to start thinking about some of these like inferencing workloads as first class like objects in queue. And but I don't know if
So,
like go on.
so my question is, so do you see any lack of peace in the current stateful set integration for Kubeflow notebooks and the cases?
So notebooks, no, but the issue is around observability. Like the fact that like a user says I submit a job or I submit a notebook and then the stateful set and the pods get gated. Some of it's like the observability of that isn't great because the user has to know to go to the stateful set rather than actually going to the notebook. Like a lot of times people want to be able to look at the notebook and say my notebooks are queued or and so this is more been like observability aspect, like how do you like users know they submitted a notebook, they don't know that they are submitting a pod and stateful sets and the pods are scheduling gated and they got to look at the workload object from notebook to stateful set. So generally I think the hope would be to put more of that information on the notebook object and also other things like as the notebook work increases, like there are other things like pausing notebooks and other stuff that I think they'd like to have rather than whatever the integration we have for stateful set. So that's sort of like for notebooks. Kserve, the issue becomes I think the main use case is people are going to want it to start doing like disaggregated serving. And some of the LLM inferencing objects are starting to talk about having like prefill and decoders in there. And right now, the way they were asking is essentially the way it's done for LLMD is they deploy two leader worker sets in parallel. And like I was getting some requests, so like they want that, getting scheduled as one workload, but really these are like two separate objects. And so like why I'm thinking for Kserve, it's really this idea that like there can be other stuff that's going on in Kserve other than the leader worker sets. And so sometimes like there are more objects I think in there. And that's sort of kind of, but I mean it sounds like, I know Yuki, you filed this one. It sounds like there is maybe interest on your end anyway on this.
Yeah, so in terms of Kubeflow notebook, I guess we can technically implement integration in queue entry controllers, because as far as I know, notebook just deploy a single replica stateful set, right? So we can just integrate that the same as other controllers.
Yeah. The
Uh,
issue with the issue with notebooks right now is uh unfortunately we did a bad thing where we patched downstream, we got that merged, but then upstream isn't interested in having V1 supported for a long term. So there's been in the community, they're not so interested in having like Q supported for V1 notebooks right now because that keeps the basically they don't want to add any new features to notebooks. So I'm not getting any maintainers like right now. Like Kubeflow notebooks will not work with Q from upstream because the stateful they don't you don't pass the where you don't pass the labels in from the notebook into the stateful set, which is the issue. So like
so even if downstream Kube community doesn't want to implement any kind of any kind of features to the V1 notebook project, but we want to have suspend semantics in notebook for the
well, some of it
observability, right?
is the issue is I think they want to focus the features on V2. So I think it's fine. It doesn't matter here. So I think like the problem is V2 is I think ongoing for notebooks. I don't know like when that will be like ready for integration. Uh but yeah, so notebooks, I'm not sure what we will do for notebooks yet. I filed this 2 weeks ago and I had a call with someone and I realized like the complexity here. I did update the issue that effectively like the maintainers would prefer the Q integration to go in V2. So I think eventually notebooks should be supported as a first class citizen in Q. But I think we might have to wait on that one. And then yeah, Kserve.
Yeah. Honestly, in terms of Kube notebook integration, I don't have any preference. But Mihao would have any kind of preference. So, let me comment about case of thing before I pass in my hand to Mihao. In terms of case of, the problem is so scaling. Um, because KSAB has multiple replicas, and they sometimes auto scale into zero or into the uh, number of replicas. In the current our Q deployment integration, we have some hacks to support this scaling semantics. So my concern about supporting KSAB natively in the Q repository is how to handle such scaling semantics. So I guess we need to deeply technical discussions for KSAB integrations. Yeah, just a comment. So
Wait, sorry.
Mihao?
Related to that, what do you mean by like it like case are having issues with that? Sorry, so don't want to change the context. Sorry to interrupt you now. What did you
Well,
mean by that?
yeah. So KSAB basically they have two mode. So serverless mode and low deployment mode. In the serverless mode context, they depend on Knative service and Istio. So they can automatically scale into any kind of replicas. But KSAB and Knative doesn't have any suspending mechanism. So in QSide, we just need to gate the created pods. However, the KSAB has so um, request monitoring mechanism. I mean, so KSAB will automatically scale based on the request size. I mean, so if users send a lot of requests to the inference servers, KSAB automatically scale out. But this is auto scaling mechanism based on metrics doesn't support gate mechanism. I mean, so if you deploy KSAB with auto-scaling semantics, Q cannot stop scaling mechanism by using schedule-gated mechanism because the underlying Knative implementation doesn't support such gating mechanism. This is just
Makes
one
sense. Yeah.
example, but lots of problems in KSAB and Knative integrations for scaling scenarios. So we need to discuss how to mitigate such problems between KSAB, Knative, and yeah, lots of communities.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Finally, Michał.
Okay, so two comments. One is that if this is only about observability and you have already working integrations, then it seems like bringing integrations into Q-core just to have some kind of observability. I understand this is important. Seems a little bit weird, and also this is a use case which may have users who have in-house jobs, like with secret sauce, they cannot even bring to the core queue. So maybe we should think how to improve our observability so that we can tell the user that okay, but the actual job, like the user owned job, is notebook. Maybe by some annotation, for example, so that the notebooks you create would have in pod template some annotation that is passed down to the stateful set or to the workload eventually, and then the workload reports in the metrics and everywhere that the real owner is notebook. So that's one comment that this would be nice feature, I think, for Q, not just like for notebook, but also for user who have in-house jobs that they cannot share with us even. And the second comment is that I think now we need to be more careful about bringing new integrations into Q because of the WAS integration effort, workload aware scheduler with scheduling library, because the scheduler library is like a big dependency blob. And we already have a couple of dependencies. So I'm just a little bit afraid of dependency hell in the future. So we need to be careful. And I have some proposal here that maybe we should have a new sub-project which could host, like we have already a couple of sub-projects like QPopulator or QVis, etc. So we could have a sub-project with add-on dependencies. So this way, this wouldn't be core queue, so we wouldn't pollute the dependencies of the core queue, but it would be in the queue repository, so like developed together, but with separate set of dependencies. So maybe we could consider this model that we don't pollute more core queue with more dependencies. At the same time, you can bring new integrations into like add-ons. So these are my two cents.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think what we're finding a problem, like even like with Trainer V2, we're getting kind of some unfortunate blocking of getting our 1.36 dependencies updated due to that, which is fine. I mean, it is what it is. And like, I also think from the Q project, we need to make it clear like what the Q maintainers or the community is willing to support versus what is like community led. I tend to suggest, like with Grove, Amy and I were thinking it's better if the Grove community kind of contributes an external framework that they can iterate on. And that's kind of what we've done for like Tecton at the moment. But I'm wondering if maybe we need to start pushing like some of these communities projects that want an integration with Q to kind of have it supported via an external framework in their project so that it's kind of more clear like the ownership. Because like I do worry that like, I mean, with inferencing, there's a lot of options about how people are deploying inferencing, and I'm like, I'm selfishly Kserve is what we support at Red Hat, but I know that there are a lot of different workloads that people are coming up with, and so I don't know if we want to, like, I guess I maybe the better follow up with this one is figuring out like when to tell people that you should do an external framework versus what we support in tree, because it I think we were maybe very permissive at first, and I'm wondering if we need to kind of make sure core is protected and not blocking our releases or anything, and then having the external frameworks kind of be community led and letting, we want to make sure there's a community on these, but we're not necessarily having to keep them running because they're breaking our builds. I think I agree. Long-winded way of saying I think I agree with you, Mihal, that I think we need to kind of start thinking about all these other new workloads, whether or not like external, or I don't know if I like the idea experimental, because I still think that that puts it on Q or the Q community to maintain it. And I think I would like to maybe start trying to think about, the workloads being kind of owned by the community and the integrations. We kind of, help add the framework for job framework and other stuff, but we're not having to support every integration possible. Anyway.
Yeah. So I totally agree with Mihal. So we should avoid cost dependency management. Actually, so we currently um, pay many cost to upgrade to dependency in tree integration repositories. On the other hand, I also agree with Kevin. So if the integration is very helpful for users, we should pick up it into our queue entry mechanism. So I guess we might need to have any voting system, whether or not we should bring the community job resource to the entry mechanism, right? So if we get 10 plus one voting, we will move the integration from experimental directory to the entry job integration, whatever. Yeah, so let's discuss about how to make so long running entry management. I will open issue to discuss about that after this meeting. Yeah.
All right, thank you. So yeah, that's all I have. And yeah, so pipelines, I see that other issue. I will follow up with some people on pipelines to get more ideas. I'm not sure. I'm not seeing a large demand on this one actually right now.
Yep.
And just one comment returning back to my previous suggestions, like the first suggestion about the improving observability so that you could tell what is the owner even for external frameworks, so that the owner is reported in metrics somewhere. What do
Yeah.
you think on that? This could
Yeah.
maybe solve the problem for
Yeah.
you.
The other issue we have is right now, like what we're getting is like like putting all our cards on the table. Like we have like the Kubeflow notebooks. Some of the users don't want the Q integration, but if we enable stateful sets, all stateful sets get managed by Q. And like they kind of want more of like a granular opt out or opt in for certain things. And like right now, since we're saying like anything that's a stateful set in this namespace will be managed by Q. And what we're hoping to get is more granular control over like what workloads Q supports, what doesn't, even within a given namespace. And so it's observability is one, but also more granular control is another. And then the other one is some of it's just like we kind of want the same code for all of these, like job set, like all these things kind of should have a similar pattern. I think what the selfish downstream one is the observability aspect was like it's easier if you have a top level object that Q is actually supporting versus like having to know a lot more details about some other stuff that's going on. But I will follow up with some folks on like at least the notebook side and maybe try to figure out more about like where that's going. I don't see this one happening that soon, honestly, but it came up. But thank you.
Okay, this complications that you mentioned may make sense to me. So I guess we will iterate on these ideas.
Any other comment? No? Okay. Okay, we have still some time. So the next is fair sharing API. Andrew, you see?
Yep. This is related to issue 7710. I wanted to bring this up because we have kind of a diverging decision we need to make. So just a quick background. Q has two fair sharing features that sound similar, but they are actually independent. The preemptive based feature and the admission fair sharing. Okay, so the issue 7710 was proposing that we should unify both of them under the same object. But this was like a long time ago, and ever since this issue was filed, a couple of things did happen. There was a PR of 7793, which did split the status of AFS. So now AFS status lives on local queue in its local queue for sharing status object, which makes this current issue a bit invalid. And like Patrick mentioned, right now, the AFS status is not reported in the cluster queue at all. So basically, we have two directions. Either option A is we unify the spec under fair sharing, admission fair sharing, and deprecate the admission scope, or we leave the spec split as it is.
I think this might be one of the, okay, sorry for not raising hand, but I think it might be one of the cases from the discussions that I had like before when designing these features. One of the cases where we don't really yet know where we want to go fully, because yeah, it's a little bit tricky to extend the admission fair sharing at larger scales. It is challenging, so it wasn't yet very clear if we will take it, but the API is a little bit looking ahead with the admission scope. I think we basically want to have the admission scope extended for the admission fair sharing at some point, but that yeah, this hasn't materialized yet, and it's one of the things that it's still a little bit in limbo, the API design for these two features. So like good that you are bringing this, but the idea was that we will basically iterate on this based on like user requests where we get yeah, which way we go. And by the way, also, sorry, Amy, I will give you soon the voice, but one more thing is that also, which may be important in this picture, there, from Mukund, there is a proposal It's not going for 0.18, but there is an interesting proposal to make fare sharing aware of historical usage. So he calls this feature historical usage fare sharing, which would essentially go the other way around, like make fare sharing capable of admission fare sharing features, like being history aware. So this is another idea. So we have some ideas how to, on one hand, expand the scope of admission fare sharing, but also there are ideas how to expand the fare sharing so that it has the capabilities of admission fare sharing. So this future is not necessarily decided, but I like the Mukund's proposal quite a lot. So we will see where we go. So to
Yeah.
make long story short, I don't. We need to rethink it. I don't know. Don't have good answers yet. There are different ideas how to move it forward. Yuki, you started. And I'm raised
Okay.
hand.
Okay. So yeah. Even if we select any kind of options proposed by Andrew, which might break existing APIs, so we have to postpone API breaking to the next API version. So I totally agree with Mihal. So in the current V1 beta to the API, we will add some of extended fare sharing features like proposed by Mukund. And so we want to find what is expected representations for all kind of fare sharing functionalities. Andrew?
Yeah, for the, I know this is breaking change, but the PR already covers the backward compatibility until we promote it to V1. So it's not a breaking change per se. We're deprecating the old one, but also the conversion webhooks already handle the conversion.
Yeah. So yeah. So we actually so can add so both fields for deprecated combinations and the new styles. But so as we discussed currently, we will have some of the more enhanced fare sharing features. So if we change the fare sharing API at this time, we might need to change additionally based on the future fare sharing functionalities. So we want to wait for the Mukundo's fare sharing enhancement at least. Yeah, so technically, we can mitigate the breaking API change based on your proposed approach. Yeah, but so we don't want to change APIs many times. We want to minimize the number of API changes times. Devin?
Yeah, so Andrew, I want to say thanks for your work on this so far. I did not realize that when you took this on that I did not realize that the issue wasn't discussed before. So I know it was posted, and I guess I didn't look to see that there was any kind of consensus. So I'm sorry for you. Yeah, we're working on this without knowing where it was going. But yeah, I want to say yeah, thanks for all your work so far on this one. I guess it sounds like we should uh maybe Mihao, should we close this issue then?
Mm,
Or like leave it, like close it and then decide to open it whenever we have a better idea like long term where we're taking like the fair sharing stuff? Because I think that's why Andrew put this on, because he thought it was something we were.
Yeah, I think this sounds like a good idea. Basically, to avoid the situation when some contributor wants to work, but we are not yet ready to guide the contributor in any sensible way. It doesn't necessarily mean that we don't want to change something, but yeah, we more thought and discussion is needed as a like pre-work to make this ready to be taken. So I'm okay to close it with that comment for now.
Okay, I can go ahead and do that.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds good. Any other comments? Okay. We actually have 5 minutes, so Mustafa.
Yes, are you hearing me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes. Okay, this issue is related at the observation system above the multi-queue. I already share, if you open this link, I already share the category of matrix. I split them into 4 category: cluster connectivity, with dispatch performance, with dispatch error, with cross cluster navigation. Yes, if you scroll down. Yes, yes. That's all. This is not the final version. We can apply some of these metrics, and we can reject another. Yes.
So are you proposing all categories in this metrics issue? I can see 4 categories in this thread. So do you aim to introduce all categories at the same time?
Yes. The first table I have, yes. This. The first table you can see number 2 and number 3 and number 4.
You can scroll up a little bit, like to the top. Scroll up more. And go down. Like go to Mustafa's comment, and there's like the first table, overview 4 categories, that one.
Oh, I
There
see.
you go.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
overview.
Yes.
Yes. This.
Nice. So
What's
I
the
actually,
second one? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so go ahead, Amy.
Oh, I was just wondering, like, what is the second one? The dispatch performance.
Yes, we wanted to see what happened. Like every time the manager cluster send to worker cluster, increase more 1. We wanted to wanted the number of the manager send the same job to cluster worker cluster, and something check the balance, like send 100 job to a specific worker, and another worker we send only 10 job. This not there is balance in dispatch performance.
I see.
Yes, and if you scroll down, you can see the 7 metrics I explain them. Yes, those.
What I wonder is, like, let's say you have like, five like 1 GPU workloads and then one 5 GPU workload. But like you're sending five to one cluster and then the large one to another cluster. Uh I guess like what I yeah, like what I'm wondering is like what are you then measuring there? Because what you're actually looking for is like some sense of like load balancing across the clusters on a capacity standpoint versus like the pure count of like what you're sort of dispatching. But I think this follows the conventions of like existing metrics for like a single cluster viewpoint. So I'm like not opposed to these. I'm just trying to like figure out how to like tie this into like an instrumenting story of like what question are you sort of answering. Um, so just sort of
Yeah.
thinking out loud there. But I think overall the sections like make sense. Yeah.
So, sorry, Mihao. So additionally, I guess in the multiple situations, so at the almost clusters, the manager cluster has the sum of capacities across worker clusters. So I guess some metrics is exactly same as the existing single cluster metrics. Um, so um, so if I want to check about if the manager cluster has all of quarters, what the difference between the existing metrics and these performance metrics as a follow-up after this meetings. Michał Wozniak?
Yeah, so my question is more about like this is quite a long list, and we need to, I think, iteratively approach the problem. So I'm wondering if two questions basically. First of all, is this dictated by some of your like already production experience that you think, oh, this metric will be very helpful? And if so, if you could maybe indicate like what would be the most important for you. So this we kind of prioritize as the um, first things to do because because the lists are quite long.
Yeah, I agree with you. Okay, Oleg. So we actually don't have enough time, so I can summarize your comments.
Do we still have time to answer my question or follow up on Oleg's, or we end?
Yeah, I just wanted to say a single sentence referring to Yuki's question. What would be the difference against manager metrics? I guess the main difference is the split per worker cluster, right? That we wouldn't have available in the manager side metrics. So that's the novelty.
Yeah. Any comments?
Yes, I agree with this list is too long, and maybe there is some of these metrics it's already implemented. Maybe I am not know it. I am search in multi-queue to know what build. Maybe there is some metrics I am not see him, but it's okay. It's I am not we not implement all of these once in one PR. We can choose one of them and implement the high priority metrics. That's all. But I am not know what the high priority. This mean I am add all.
Yeah, that's great. Any comments for this issue? All right. So, okay, this is time for today's meeting. Thank you for joining today's meeting. See you in 2 weeks. So far, Sohan, do you have any
Yeah,
comments?
just want to quickly thank Mihal and Yuki for considering to push the current release to next week. to accommodate some of the DRA pieces. So just want to thank you all for that. So we can discuss about the future graduation and stuff, but considering that request is something which is really great, and we're happy to kind of support on the development side. So just want to bring that point here.
Yeah, thank you for reminding. So we will try do best in this week and next week. Yeah. All right. Any comments? Yeah. Okay. So see you in next 2 weeks. Yeah. Bye.
Bye.